Hey, well, good evening. Welcome to another wonderful edition of the Alpha Male Perspective. You have me, LV, who will be your wonderful host. We hope to have a lot of interesting and entertaining things for everyone to enjoy tonight. Tonight, I have with me the same old crew. I have Mr. Johnny Quick, Mr. William Colvin, and Mr. JP Craddock. Johnny Quick, how's it doing today for you, brother?
Man, it's going well. It's been hot in the sun, but hey, besides that, I'm in a cool space with you, brothers.
Mr. Coleman, how you doing today?
I'm good, brother. I like how you introduced yourself as the wonderful host. So that's big pimping
Hey,
right there.
if I don't think
Big
it, who
pimping.
else will?
I'm good, bro. Good to be with you, man.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. Mr. JP Craddock, how you doing, sir?
What's up, LV? I'm good. I'm good. It's good to see you brothers tonight.
All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and jump right on into tonight's good, bad, or ridiculous. I don't know if many of you have heard about it or if you haven't, but over the weekend in Buffalo, there was another mass shooting. There was an 18-year-old young man by the name of Peyton Gendon who went in armed into a grocery store in a predominantly black neighborhood and intentionally shot and wounded. And I believe that the death toll came up to 10.
Yeah.
Uh, and then he, got on his knees, turned himself in, and was apprehended without, anything bad happening to him. He had a manifesto that was over 80 or 90 pages where he stated a lot of racist things and said that he got converted back in 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic when he was bored. And he basically did that online. So I'd like to get you gentlemen's takes on what do you feel is this good, bad, or is it ridiculous that someone can just walk in armed like that anywhere, and the fact that they're targeting minorities as far as their apprehension, how minimal it is. Like to start with you, Mr. Quick.
Well, I've been thinking about this and how this is bad because if you give it a little ridiculous, it means you can find a little comedy in it, and I can't find any humor in this because you have to look at this young man plotted. He drove 2 to 3 hours. He went in there the first day to get the lay of the land. He apologized to white people for pointing the gun at them by accident. So when you look at this, his mentality, I think I heard DL Hughley said yesterday. You look at Young Gunna and all these, and you want to criminalize them for their music and use their lyrics in their court cases, but we're not criminalizing the people who inspire and give these people the ammunition to go out here and make it right in their minds to go out here and do harm to black people. When you look at the people in California who did harm to the I believe it was the Asian Americans. So when you have people out here who have this feel that they're going to lose something, they losing their right, and they feel empowered by the words of whomever. I won't just say it's Fox News or the right one, but when they feel empowered, we're not criminalizing those people who are giving them power. So I think it's very bad.
Yeah, nice point, Brother Coleman.
I'm torn on it, bro. Honest with you, it can never be good when people lose their lives. So I don't want to make it good from that perspective. But I think some good is coming out of this. And bear with me for a minute. The last time we heard real conversation around racial justice and things of that nature was when President Obama was in office, when he had to have the whole conversation behind some of the things that I think it was Reverend Wright said and how he was associated with all of those things. Joe Biden has now gone to Buffalo, spoken on it, spoken on the fact that these theories are there. I've seen videos on YouTube where you have white Americans saying this isn't something new. This has been going on. Parents have been telling us that America was going to be overrun by minorities and we have to protect ourselves. Also bringing vision to what's going on with Black America as far as police deaths in our community and things of that nature. So this is all coming. We have killers, which is what this young man is, just like Dylan Roth. Other people who go into our community kill us, and they're taken into custody. Dylan Roth was even taken to Burger King before they took him to jail because they said he was hungry. So these people are getting this pass, and we're saying, is this just the police? But it's broader than the police, and it's bringing light to the issue at levels that we are all get light now. Should it take something like this? I would say no. But at the same time, it always seems to take something like this for us to get traction in our community. So again, I do not say it's good from the standpoint that, again, we lost life. We should not have to go to these extremes in order to get action in our, but it's also, if there is any good, it's from the fact that attention is being brought to this theory. Attention is being brought, I was saying, attention is being brought to the people who are espousing these theories. So from that perspective, the light and hopefully what's going to come from it, those deaths will mean something because we will get some traction and some action in behind what happened there.
Okay. JP Craddock, I would like to get your take on a slightly different version of it. Now, some media outlets are portraying the young man as having mental issues because they said last year at his, I believe at his high school graduation or for the prom or a prom, he had threatened that he was going to shoot up the school. So, of course, the police went out, they checked him out. I guess he went through, was assessed, and nothing was done, no record or anything. Therefore, it enabled him to be able to go and legally buy the weapons and everything that he purchased, plan out his plan to do what he did. From the mental aspect, do you believe this? Is it possible that he is mentally unstable, really? Or is it just maybe something to try to fall back on to save yourself from the death penalty? Should he have been in therapy or?
Okay. Well, weigh in on this is that it is bad, of course. To answer your question, yes, he is mental. And let me outline the mental illness in this. Okay. The fact that he planned to commit these murders, the premeditation in killing people of their race, that is what we call social personality disorder, which is the clinical term for a sociopath. Okay, because he's a mass murderer. Sociopathy is mental illness. You're clearly insane if you feel, okay, minorities are taking over the country, we have to protect ourselves. The way to protect ourselves is to go out and gun them down. So there's no as to whether or not he's crazy. Now, manifesto and all of those things, what we're also looking at is delusions. And delusions are a part. First thing, delusions are irrational. That even when evidence is presented that is those thoughts, the person still holds on to those thoughts. Racism in and of itself is delusional thinking. And thinking is a category of psychosis. So you can't really be psychotic without being deemed to be. Now, with that said, we don't live in a time where people are able to plead the insanity plea in order to get out of being held accountable for their crimes.
You said we don't?
No.
Since
in
when?
modern society, the accountability is not based upon whether or not insane or not, because when you think about all the different crimes that people end up in prison for, molestation, serial murders, serial rapes, all of them are insane. They're still in prison. So being does not remove a person from a what the court system looks at now is competency versus insanity. And when you think about to be declared competent to stand trial, a person has to, one, understand the held against them, being brought against them, and two, be able to participate in their defense. And so even there have been cases where a person was initially basically too damn crazy to be deemed competent. What our is throw them people into a mental institute, get them to the point where they understand the charges that are being them and can participate in their defense, and then they are still tried. We have moved beyond saying no one who is insane can go to prison. This is the reason why the prisons hire so many therapists. A society where it's like, your ass can be crazy, get you for your crazy while you in prison, but you're going to prison. So his defense, yes, their plan is going, oh, he's mentally ill, he has antisocial personality disorder, or he's delusional, or da 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 da. Maybe he experienced something negative at the hands of an African. They're going to try to say he had PTSD, but the bottom line is he premeditated all of it. He's already going to be deemed to be competent. He's going to be in court and he's going to be tried.
So let me ask you this, Gerald. It makes perfect sense. Because you explain it well. You explain things very well, even though I'll be disagreeing with your ass a lot.
All the time. You always
All the time. So let me ask you this question, because this is the thing that I'm struggling with what you explain. The definition very well laid out. The thing that I'm struggling with is when people commit insane acts against white communities, I see where they are held accountable. We see people commit insane acts against black communities, and they're not always held accountable. Now, the little dude in Wisconsin didn't claim insanity, but that was an insane act.
Mm-hmm. But
they're not held accountable.
When they are not being held accountable, it's not because of a lack of competency. That's just racism in our system.
So we talking about two different things.
He was deemed to be fully competent.
So we just talking about two different things.
Of course, he's crazy. And when you think about it, the reason mental health diagnosis does not excuse a person from accountability is because really every single person on the planet meets the criteria for a mental health diagnosis at some point over their lives, because there are adjustment disorder diagnoses that make you normal for experience. And for anybody who doesn't experience them, they end up looking like a sociopath, which is another diagnosis. So you can't go to prison if they have a diagnosis, and having a diagnosis does not make a person insane. Adjustment disorders, depression is a normal diagnosis that many people have. Now, sociopathy, not a normal diagnosis that a person would have. But this fool is clearly competent. He premeditated it. So yeah, you're right. There have been white people who have committed crimes against black people and they get off, but they're not getting off on an insanity plea. The system is flawed. And
well,
internally.
I tell you, I can tell you that I grew out of my crazy because at the same time you was treating yourself for anger management, I was treating my crazy, so I'm all better now.
And we all benefit from you being.
I'm glad both of y'all are in a better place.
but he be relapsing.
We're not getting it.
We all a work in progress.
Yes.
And I would just like to add my take before we move on to today's perspective. To me, it's bad, and in my sense of bad is where we still are as far as when we want to say that there are racist activity going on, in America, and that America is not racist. Because this young man had this information pumped into him from other people who may not have had maybe the physical ability to do what they did. They used this kid as a vessel. That's another bad part. A part of me, and I can't believe that I feel this way, because at first I was just irate and just mad, and then when I started looking at it more and seeing how he was manipulated and basically brainwashed by some people to go into a suicide mission. It was either he was supposed to turn the gun and kill himself. Now, why he didn't kill himself, I don't know. But that to me shows that he's not insane. He's decided he would rather go to jail and take his chances going to court versus taking his own life and taking the chance of being in jail for life versus getting the death penalty. And if he is in for life, he's going to be in solitary confinement so he doesn't get attacked by other prisoners. So it's bad on both perspectives.
Well, LV, when I thought about this and I thought about you, man, and I heard President Biden, and immediately we went to the gun laws. And it was interesting that you brought up when you introduced this that when he was in high school, he was never arrested for the threats he made. So even if we had gun laws, he wouldn't have been prevented from buying a gun without that arrest. But my question for you is, I know that you're a gun owner, and I know that you have definite opinions about gun laws. So do you think this is a justification for some form of background checks when it comes to gun laws? Because I think that is, you have to take some form of step. And I'm not against gun ownership, but we got to do something to keep our 15s and things of that nature out of people's like this hands. So what are your thoughts on?
I'm not a fan of gun laws, but the background check, I don't really necessarily consider that a gun law, because it's the individual with the gun in their hand is what's doing the damage. And you need to be a competent individual. And if you have a criminal background, I'm sorry, that throws you out of the pool. You got to go to the kiddie pool. You can't come over here with the big boys. Okay, if you're not mentally stable, or if you've made threats in the past, maybe you were kidding. Okay, well, it's too bad that you did that. If you had that thought, you may not have acted on that thought, and then you figured out it was smart enough to say, "Oh, I was just kidding." No. So you do have to do background checks, because someone who's mentally unstable, or I would say maybe even take it so far. Any type of arrest, that's whether you're convicted or not, if there's an arrest where it's some type of violent thing happening, I think there needs to be more research into that particular incident to see, if it's any validity to it before you even allow somebody to be able to purchase a gun and pass that. So,
I'd like to jump in on that.
Go ahead, John.
Because we look at background checks and gun laws. They only really apply to people who are going to legally possess a weapon. So when you really want to look at this, because what about the people who make the ghost guns? Because we haven't talked about that. And just for those on here that may not know what that is, you can go online, learn how to make a ghost gun, develop it through a 3D machine, and there's no background check for that. There's no checks and balances in place. And so if you're mentally unstable, but you're stable enough to go on to a library, internet, or somewhere to make a weapon, and And that's what happened here in Kansas City. They said about within the last year, there's been 2 or 3 deaths that have been the result of a ghost gun. And so these gun laws only protect the ones that are possibly going to do things legally. And I don't think that really stops anyone, because if you're going to commit a crime, you know how to get a legal weapon, you know how to make a weapon, or whatever the case may be. And so if we're really going to look at trying to change some things, we got to look at all aspects instead of just saying we're going to go at it the legal way.
But the
You
question is
know,
on that one, John, is how do you
Prevent it.
control or
Right.
limit, the criminal world? Okay,
That's true. What
I
were
mean,
you going to say, Combs?
you can't legislate the criminal world because the
Right.
underworld, they're going to get it some way. But it's
yeah, and I
people
guess
that
I
are
was,
it's people that are able to get them legally that are putting them in the hands of other people illegally.
Right.
Those are the ones that I don't know how you can regulate those.
yeah, and I think the problem that we've had with gun laws is that they haven't been holistic. You can't go to a store or Walmart and buy a gun without a background check, but yet you can go to a gun show and buy guns without a background check. So it has to be a holistic system. I think the other piece of this, and I know this is a little bit odd, but we don't say things like, well, drugs shouldn't be illegal, meth shouldn't be illegal because you're gonna have people who gonna sell it on the black market anyway. That's just
True.
part of what happens. I think that you have to do something, start the
Yeah.
conversation, start the process. You have to put something in place to even have a place to start pushing aspects, the black market aspects of laws. So I get what you're saying. I don't disagree with you, Little John, but where do we start? You know what I
Right.
mean? We can't start with the underground. We got to start with what's going on in the real world. And then once we start there, now you can start pushing the laws to get to the underground, the gun shows, and some of those other places where people are legally buying guns that are outside the purview of the law.
We got to give you time to give your final statement on this so we can move on. You had mentioned experience of empathy for him along the line of the brainwashing piece of it. And I just wanted to say that brainwashing does not excuse a person from accountability also.
No,
because
I agree.
If a person intelligence, you are held accountable even for putting yourself in a position to be brainwashed. Because the bottom line is it's about knowing, understanding your charges, being able to participate in your defense. And the bottom line is at knowing the difference between right and wrong. If person knows that it's against the law to go out and kill other people, the defense may try to present brainwashing as he's too insane to be held accountable. But no, we are, if we have been brainwashed. Is it unfortunate that the mind of an 18-year-old was manipulated and brainwashed? Yes. Is it unfortunate when you think of
Okay.
So went into deep thought.
what?
He's
Oh,
back.
he's back.
You froze for a second. We thought you were just in deep thought.
What's the matter? Was I frozen or something?
Yeah, you
Okay,
froze
yeah.
for a minute. Look, thought we was like, oh shit, the
So
light bulb
y'all
went
couldn't
on.
hear me?
We just heard
couldn't-
the
we
we just
couldn't
missed
nothing
the
you.
last sentence. The last sentence.
Okay. What I was saying is the prefrontal cortex of the brain is not fully developed until the age of 25. Okay. Frontal cortex, where rational reasoning and all those different things take place, that play a role in deciding whether or not you're going to go out and kill a bunch of people because of their race. But even at the age of 18, even though the prefrontal cortex is not fully developed, is developed enough to know it is wrong to go out and kill people based upon their race. A 12-year-old's prefrontal cortex is developed enough to grasp that. So even if the defense tries to present that, well, you know, the prefrontal cortex isn't even fully developed in this person, which played a role in them making an impulsive, rash, horribly drastic, murderous decision. It's developed enough for him to know that he shouldn't the hell been out killing people based upon their race.
Oh, I agree. And to wrap it up, when I say I had empathy for him, I still want him to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. If that means he loses his life, he loses his life. I don't have any empathy for his sentence. He needs to stand trial.
Right.
It's just the empathy is that you have other people preying on kids that they can manipulate like that.
Oh yeah. Oh,
and then they're still at home in their warm beds, and then they're on to the next one because he's not going to tell on them, and they're not going to, because they're fighting their fight. They're trying to save their race because they feel that they're about to go extinct, and that's the mentality that they're pumping in them, and that's where for him, because the thing was, what I found odd, he took a lot of the ammunition that he bought over to his best friend's house. Ironically, his best friend was a Latino. The mom of his friend, she was just totally shocked and couldn't believe that he would have did what he did, because he never had any kind of he never displayed any racist things. Maybe he just kept it within, or with them he had nothing against them, but us he did. Which now we're going to switch, and let's go ahead and get into today's perspective, which deals with some more negativity. Before I bring up this topic, I just want to make it known I am not a member of the manosphere. I do not support a lot of the verbiage from the manosphere or any of that. But a lot of you know that Kevin Samuels passed away, and since his death, there seemed to have been a lot of negative backlash against the man. Whether you like the man or didn't like the man, I feel it's very disrespectful to slander him in death. Do you agree that it's okay to slander him now that he's deceased? The man is not even in the grave. I mean, flowers ain't even growing. The grass ain't grew back up in the hole they dug yet. And people just kicking the man, stomping him. I mean, do you think that's okay, or is it not okay, and why? And let's think about this man's family. He does have a family. Do I think did he portray himself as a nice individual? No. Like I said, I was not a fan. I didn't agree. I do not agree with disrespecting women, period. I wasn't raised that way, and definitely my Black women. So I was not a fan of his, but because he's dead, I ain't gonna talk bad about the man. I mean, come out and talk about me, just like you say, give somebody their flowers when they're alive. Give them that hot lead when they're alive too. Give them an opportunity to duck and shoot back.
I'd like for our viewers to comment and make chats. They can go on YouTube Live and drop your chat comments, as this will get exciting.
And Brother Quick, I'd like to start with you. You got a big old smile on your face. So do you agree that it's okay? Do you disagree that it's okay to kick this man while he's down?
Well, I think right. I don't think he's gonna get back up. So he's probably down from this.
That's what I'm talking about right there, people. It's too soon. Too soon for jokes, okay?
You know what? Why he down, dog? He dead.
He ain't coming back. I'm not gonna laugh at the man's death. I ain't not gonna laugh.
Y'all are wrong, man.
To answer your thing is, I didn't agree with everything he said, and I didn't disagree with everything he said. Now, I didn't like the approach he had and the comments that he made, but as far as myself, the way I was raised, I don't besmirch or badmouth anyone that is not here to defend themselves. If he was here to defend himself, we can go round and round and talk about whatever. But if a person is bad, I just leave the badness to where it's at and let him live with it. I don't try to make it worse, or I don't try to make myself sound better, because the bottom line, the guy is not here to defend himself.
I agree. I agree with you there. I do. Mr. Coleman, I already know you're gonna say you torn on it, and then you got two sides of it, and you gonna set it up. I already know. Because I know this is a friend of mine for over 30 years. You know the old saying when they say, he know where the dead bodies is at. You know where the dead bodies is at. So I know him, vice versa.
Right.
So I already know, but I just want to hear it though. And it's going to be very eloquent.
First, he got to lean into the camera and give his perspective.
You know what I'm saying?
Give him the close up. Give him the close up, bro. Give him the close up.
I struggle with it, bro. I mean, my uncle gave me a book years ago. My uncle Garland gave me a book years ago, man. He said, you have the right to say whatever you want to say, but people have the right to respond to it in any manner that they want to. So, it's a dual effect as far as conversation. So I don't agree with people coming after him in depth, with all this conversation and all these things to say. But I also agree that people gonna say what they're gonna say. They're gonna talk when they're gonna talk. It's up to us whether we're gonna bite on it, live on it, chew it and shit it out, So I really don't have strong thoughts on it. You know what I mean? It's not something that I'm gonna do. But you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Right. I kind of get what you're saying, because if the thing is, he had a message, and as Little John made note that there was some things of it that he agreed or he understood. Because some of it was fact, but because of the way he delivered the message, everybody missed the message and they jumped on the messenger. Now, maybe he did that to get those millions and millions of followers that he had for his social media conglomerate, and he really didn't care, but still, man.
But listen, we have a podcast that we're trying to get to go viral. Would it be right for one of us to just go off on ladies and say, well, you know what? You're not high value because of this, that, and the other, just to get ratings? I don't think
couldn't do it. I had to look at myself in the mirror, because the women, like some of the women that he said were derogatory things. I can't say I agree with that. It's to each man his own. I don't want stick and bones. I like, I like a voluptuous woman. And just because you put a number on a weight don't mean that it can't look good. So that part, he lost a lot of people from listening to his message. That's all.
It's funny, man. I got 4 sisters. Yeah, I got 4 sisters, so I can't get down with him. I'm trying to get an invite to Christmas dinner. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So but in all reality, those are things I do. My thing is that I disagree with it, so I chose not to tune in.
Exactly.
The thing that I don't get is how many people disagree, calling into the show knowing he gonna dig you call in, and they steadily calling in, and he's steadily digging on them. And I'm like,
at some point they had to be trolling. They had to be.
You know what I'm saying? But it's like if I disagree with something, I can take the information in just because I think it's good to have information and good to know where you may be attacked from. I don't have to live on it. I don't have to chew on it. And I think a lot of people, are living and chewing on what he said and some of those things. And I'm like, if you disagree with him, disagree with him. But I'm with you. I don't want to tear him up while he's dead, but I keep laughing because I keep looking at Gerald's face.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
This clinical perspective is about to be out the
I'm going quiet
ready to fight somebody.
Because and I'm getting ready to flip it to him, but like, I just want to piggyback on what you said. Like you said, if you don't mess with it, you don't mess with it. And if you hear what he says, if that's not you, if the shoe don't fit, why are you offended? Why are you offended? But JP, I see that look. I see the wrinkle in the middle. The floor is yours, sir.
Here's my thoughts, and I'm going to start and end with this, but my primary thought is death does not give us a free pass on how we lived our lives. Just because a person has dropped dead does not mean that they get a free pass on the legacy that they left. So I want to address the statements that y'all presented. Okay. One statement is disrespectful to slander him in death. When you think about the definition of slander, which is engaging or presenting verbiage that is false about a person, the things that are being said are not slanderous because the evidence is there to support the statements. When you are a public figure and you are speaking publicly, and what you have stated is recorded and out there on the internet, that's not slander. At any point, if any one of us were to die and somebody goes and pulls up something that we stated in a recording, the evidence speaks for itself. Just because I'm dead does not mean, okay, well, I'm dead. You can't be pulling up the evidence of what I said and speaking negatively against me. No, that's the legacy that I left. It is what it is. It's not slander.
So if you're an asshole, just to make sure I understand what you're saying. So if you an asshole your whole life, and now that you died, that when you dead, if everybody want to jump on how big of an asshole you was, that's okay. No matter, your mama got to hear this. You know, your sister got to hear this. Your nieces or nephews, you know, they're already grieving your death, but now they already know you was an asshole too. But do you think they want to hear that?
But if they knew he was an asshole while he was living, why are they acting surprised, shocked, or hurt? Oh, everybody's calling my son an asshole. My response to her would be, you didn't know he was an asshole? You are not aware of what he said? Why don't you get on the internet and review the recordings? So what people are stating is the truth. And when it comes to keeping it real about anything, the evidence that supports it is real. It does not change because a person is dead. It's like people who want to show up at funerals and everybody's crying and throwing themselves on the casket of an asshole and acting like the person wasn't an asshole. No, that's an asshole in the casket. Now, you can be at the funeral because you loved your asshole, but don't be at the funeral presenting and pretending as if the person was not an asshole.
I ain't saying you got to. I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Hold on. Let me get through all what the hell I got to say.
He got a lot.
You got too much shit to say.
I'm saying reality is what it is, and that is something for all of us to even remember. Because if I drop dead and somebody pull up this recording, well, you know what? He spoke ill of the dead. I did. I wouldn't want any of y'all or my family. Don't be saying that about JP. He's dead. What the hell? It's the truth. It's what I did. I stand in it.
But listen,
death does not give us a free pass on how we lived our lives.
Listen, you can't tell me that I'm one of the speakers at your funeral and think I'm gonna let people go crazy about JP. We're gonna be up in the funeral home brawling.
Yeah.
If they are quoting something I said on
I
this
don't
podcast,
care. Not at the funeral.
Hold on a minute. If they are quoting something I said on this podcast, quoting something I said on my radio show, quoting something that I said in an article or in a book, that is what I said. I stand in it, dead or alive.
This is my only
stand in it.
This is my only thing though. Some people stand in it like you're speaking on, and then some people have characters. I don't know Kevin Samuels at all. Don't know him from Adam. But some people have characters. So if somebody came in and said K-State Coleman was an asshole, he was arrogant, and they could very well be right. And it would be things that were real, that they saw, that they experienced in dealing with me. I mean, y'all know I did a lot of foul shit. But I am not him. And my only point about Kevin Samuels is, yes, he currently. But when we say his parents knew, or his mom and them knew he was an asshole, his mom and them might have known his character spoke words that they didn't agree with, but the way that he treated them, the way that he worked with them, the way that he developed and cared for them was totally different from a character standpoint than the person that they love. So when you come in there and you speak ill and all of these things, there can still be that level of friction from the standpoint of that was my Kevin. Just like the funeral home talking about that's not my JP. Because I
Eh,
know who you are, regardless of whatever you say. And I know you stand on yours, so you a little bit just morally, you're a little bit different from the whole therapy and how you live your life shit. You're a little bit different. You can look confused. I've told you this before. Don't act like this is new information to you.
In what way?
But you know
In,
what?
in, in the way in the way that you in the
for our
way
viewers,
that you
in what way am I different?
stand in who you are in everything that you do, because the character and the the moral compass that you have and how you live your life, and you live your life through your profession. You are a therapist no matter what else you do.
"24/7."
Me and you can
Yes.
be we can be sitting at the damn bar taking shots, and you be giving me therapy about the proper way
Yeah,
to do it, why I shouldn't take shots too fast. You be trying to guide me through that shit. You live in different, which doesn't mean that any of us don't live and we're not true to ourselves. But your moral compass and how you carry yourself based on your profession and how you want your clients to see you, and the way you treat them and the way you carry them through the people I work with, the people I work with, if you told them I even smile, they'd be like, oh, we don't believe that. William's all business. If you told them he takes shots, they'd be like, oh, we don't believe that. I've never seen William have anything outside of water and soda and sometimes tea. I have a different, not moral compass, but I have a different person that I take to work versus the one I take to hang out with y'all versus the
Right.
one I take to go to dinner with my wife. Um, and I'm not saying that you don't do anything differently, but that person that gives therapy in session is really the same person that gives therapy with us when we club, or gives therapy to us when we playing chess, or gives therapy to us when we all at the crib. You carry it different, and part of that difference comes from the way you live your life based on who you are as a therapist. And you
Right.
always, when we was in college, you loved therapy before you was even a therapist.
yes, you did.
You know what I'm saying? You be trying to give us
Right.
treatment, we be sitting thinking, I'm like, I
And
don't need
see,
treatment right now. You know what I'm saying?
and see, my
Okay.
moral compass. We talked about a couple of weeks ago. People don't
Yeah.
believe. I don't like people, but people would never believe that.
All right, Lil John, we're not going back there. Go ahead
Okay.
and go ahead and continue, JP.
Here's my thought. I can agree that as we go through life, people experience different parts of us. And yes, his mother may have experienced this loving son who was not full of misogyny in his interactions with her. But when you all are saying that things are being said that are slanderous, or people are talking bad about him, or kicking him while he's down and he's not here to defend himself, the bottom line is, if 10 people stand up at that funeral and present a different side of him, if there is evidence out there supporting, and if they are quoting his words, all of that makes up the whole of who he is. So his mother is not in a position to say, we only going to talk about him as a son. No, some of the women who called into that show and were degraded and almost brutally, psychologically, and emotionally abused based upon their weight, based upon how much money they made or didn't make, based upon whether or not they had a kid out of wedlock. Mama does not get to sit there and act like that person didn't exist also.
Do they
Now,
have any
here's the
accountability
difference
for
in
calling
something
in?
that you said. Hold
Right.
on. Something that you said is, if people bring up who you were at K-State, that's different. And the reason why that's different is because we are supposed to look at each other from the perspective of who we are today versus who we were yesterday. Now, so if somebody gets up at your funeral and they're like, well, Coleman was an asshole, well, of course, we would be in a position to say, well, wait a minute. You talking about somebody who you experienced 30 years ago. You were not a part of his growth. That doesn't apply to Kevin Samuels because he died on top of the same type of woman that he degraded on his show. He was full of hypocrisy.
Well,
And
he could have made a change when they was having that conversation.
Really? He was sleeping with a woman
As I
that he
stated,
met the night
no,
before.
but see, as I stated, he would just throw numbers out there. But like I said, there are a lot of women who might be 225 and they 5'5" or 5'6", and they don't look like the Shamu or Big Bertha, what he would call them, or Big Shirley. That's what he called them. They don't. They got that hourglass. They have a slim stomach, and it's not always due to going and having surgery.
Hey,
There
I
are
like to
women
throw
out there that are healthy and fit, and they weigh that amount.
Hey, we
And
have a
see,
comment
and
that
that's
came
what he
in.
ran up on.
We
You
had
know,
a comment came in from one of our viewers. They said he has to be more than his profession. If he acts like this outside of his character, then that's who he is. And so the person really has to be more than his profession. That was one from one of our viewers that made that
Here's
comment.
something to think about. He didn't just degrade women based upon their weight. He assigned a value to them based upon everything from their weight to whether or not they wore weave to he degraded them on multiple levels. And when you think about how he devalued women, the hypocrisy in him dying on top of a woman that he had met the night before.
okay, hold on, time out. Okay, the dying on top of the woman part. Okay, he didn't necessarily die on top of her. Now she just said that he told her, he mentioned to her before he collapsed that his chest hurt. Now that's all was said. Now everybody done assume that this man recreated the color purple.
He collapsed on top of this woman. The bottom line is, if
they couldn't have been sitting on the couch and he fell over in her lap, that's collapsing on top of her. That's what I'm saying. Time out on saying it was the whole color purple thing. That's all I'm saying.
He died.
Well, he was butt naked. Go ahead, JP.
Go ahead, JP.
My point is, he died with a woman that he had met the night before and spent the night with her. And what she quote unquote said is that he collapsed onto her. It doesn't matter where or what the circumstances outside of that was. My point is, if that same woman had called into his show, he would have devalued her for engaging in one-night stands. He talked to women about their value.
Well, she cleared that up. She cleared that up about the one-night stand. The woman came out and did that. She said she's not. She said her loved ones know she's not the type of person to have one-night stands. So
is there hypocrisy in him? Because y'all defending this man, and I'm not defending him. I'm trying to just
well, I want to say this point. You said the hypocrisy
speak and was dead silent.
Well, you said the hypocrisy. What if it's that it goes to the earlier point? What if that was a character role and who he truly is was being with this lady? So go ahead and finish. You saying
he was playing a role. That's what got him his money, because he wasn't always on doing the show that he was doing. I believe he used to be like a relationship therapist at one point, and obviously he started doing the online stuff, and he got into an argument one time, and he seen how it spiked his viewership. So he went at that whole ham. And then, like you said, women start being their own victims to it because they called in and wanted to combat him. Okay, they wanted to prove him wrong.
First thing, that's a relationship coach is not a therapist. That's not a coach.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say
that ain't somebody who does.
Okay, relationship coach. I'm sorry, I said I apologize. Okay. I did not mean to offend you, sir, or anybody else in the profession.
Therapist. Here's my point: is even if y'all's defense is that he was playing a role. Just because he's dead, he still has to be held accountable for what he said. You don't get to say after a person's dead, well, they were
That's
just
for
playing
God
a
to
role.
hold you accountable, bruh. That's
The
not for me or
evidence
you
is
to do.
out there. No, y'all's complaints were that people were slandering him, which is not true.
You said
People were
hold him
talking
accountable.
bad about him. If they are quoting the things that he said, you don't get to say after the person is dead, well, maybe they were just playing a role. No, you put it out there and it's out there. Just like we are saying what we have to say and it's out there. None of us are going to be in a position where later we can be like, well, I was just playing a role. Or after JP drops dead, well, he was just playing a role when he said what he had to say about a dead man. No, y'all would need to say, no, he meant what the hell he said. And if
Because
he
you
was
do.
playing a role, we
But
have
you
to
do.
accept responsibility for the natural consequences that go along with playing a role in order to have ratings on the show. If you are willing and psychologically and emotionally abuse women in order to increase your ratings, why should anybody feel sorry for you for that being pointed out just because you dropped dead? Because, as I said before, death does not excuse how we live. It doesn't. And so, on behalf of all of those women who experience that psychological and emotional abuse, and not just women who called into the show, because I know women who experienced the ramifications from men who watched him. These are women who never would have watched him themselves, but they interact in a world full of men who did. On behalf of all of those women, on behalf of every woman that I know and love, none of them deserve to have somebody put those venomous perspectives out there, grading and judging women harshly because of their weight or because they have a kid out of wedlock or because they have weed. It's foul. And you got somebody doing all this relationship coaching, but where the hell was his wife?
He's divorced.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Brother Coleman.
So this was my only comment in response to JP. I don't need to defend him. I never watched him enough to really know what his show was all about. I know some of the things that people tell me he said, but I don't need to defend him. This is my thing, though. I have a certain way that I feel about commenting on anybody who is not here to respond. That's me. It's not a defense of him. That's not a defense of anything that he did. I don't even know. I mean, some of the things that you're saying, Drew, that he did and said is news to me. I never watched him.
Right.
So I cannot defend a show that I never watched. Because once again, I got 4 sisters and a wife. And I could go on and say a grandmother, mother, you know. So I never watched it personally. So I don't know what his show was all about. But again, me personally, somebody go to the ground, I try to let them be. I try not to speak on them. And that's not to say that that is a defense or that what he said wasn't trying to say any of that. Me personally, if the next door neighbor live next door to me right now, who don't never speak to me, if I see an ambulance come over there tonight and they roll his ass out the house, I ain't gonna never say another word about it. That's just me.
Right.
It's not a
Right.
defense of what he did or a defense of his actions or anything he said. That's just me. I'm never gonna speak on it again.
But you're saying he's not here to defend himself. But when you speak publicly, that is your defense. One of the things that I like about doing this podcast, doing my radio show, writing my book is that my words will live long after me. Long after I'm gone, my daughter, if she wants to know what my perspective was on this or on that, she will be able to hear it. She will be able to read it. So I don't need to be physically present to defend myself. This is what my father felt about this. This is how my father felt about that. So he's not a defenseless person if he is a public figure and he's speaking and his words are recorded and put out there in the world. How many deceased people live on in their words?
JP, I have a
So
question to
you
ask
really
you.
don't need to be physically present to defend yourself. If I drop dead and somebody later says, well, JP was misogynistic, it would not be hard to go through all the radio shows and the podcast shows and my book to present evidence. This is what he has to say. So you cannot say he was misogynistic, because he wasn't.
I have a question. What does this statement mean to you? Rest in peace. What does that statement mean to
It
you?
don't mean shit.
Yeah. It's no need for him. Oh, hey, it's no need for him to go into a tirade. We already know.
You say he dead. I don't care.
Live your life accordingly. If you want to rest in peace, live your life accordingly. You don't get to live and be foul and abusive to women or to anyone and then say, I deserve my peace in death.
Gerald, that dude running around the cemetery kicking over heads. No.
Yeah.
I can't stand Miss Johnson wasn't shit.
Okay. On that note, I'm gonna sum this up. Basically, JP is like, anybody that got anything negative to say about this man, go ham. He just saying, have a little facts on what you want to say, prove he said it, and he's all right with it. Me, I ain't with that, because the man's not here anymore, and just out of respect for the family, I agree. It could all be just a character. That's just like to say, anybody that watches Power, everybody want to kick Tyreek ass. So I guess the actor that played Tyreek, you know, you supposed to, when you roll up on him on the street, you want to whoop his ass for he was being disrespectful to his daddy.
He got death threats in real life.
Yeah, and he did. And people do stupid stuff like that. But, you know, we're almost at the end of the show. I don't really have a bonus segment, but I have one little small anecdote that I think we have time for that I just want to throw out there. A couple weeks ago, it was in the news that an Alabama correctional officer helped an inmate escape. Now, the two of them had developed, a relationship between the two, and she sold her home, cashed in everything, pushed it all to the table, broke him out, and they ran. But they didn't have no plan once they got out, so they got caught, and she shot herself. Now, we discussed this, and there was an very interesting take that Mr. Coleman had on why she did what she did. Go ahead, Mr. Coleman.
Prison dick hit different.
Can you elaborate? Can you elaborate on that phrase?
Bruh, she killed herself. Prison dick hit different.
So I mean, it was reported that she was a widow. So are you trying to say that
she dated this prisoner for 2 years, man? Put in her retirement papers, sold the home that she had with her ex-husband, had like 90 grand, and broke this cat out of prison. No plan? And just hold up in a hotel room for a couple of weeks?
So I guess she wanted that prison dick for the weekend. That's why she.
Dude, now listen. I'm sure JP is getting ready to break it down and talk about what form of psychosis she had and all this. All I can tell you is the evidence say prison dick hit different.
Because if you on the run, you don't run to Indiana. That's not where you go.
They were trying to get Canada, I guess. They were coming from Alabama,
Bro, they didn't know
where to go. You're closer to Florida. You can get to Mexico.
They should have went to Cuba.
But they didn't know where to go.
No, she's like, I'm happy. I got my man.
They did not have a good plan. They had a good plan to get out. They had an excellent plan to get out, because it took them a week to find out what happened.
Bro, listen. Oh boy, back in prison, talking about that was the best weekend of my life. Vicky Sue over here with Kevin Samuels, and we out here talking about it. They get different. They just do. That's the evidence. JP.
There actually is some psychology to support this. Let me explain. I mean, you put it in a real raw kind of. You presented it raw and rough, but if
Wasn't rough.
and I don't know this woman, I haven't assessed this woman. If she was a woman struggling with her self-esteem, one of the things about engaging in relationships with people who are incarcerated, who are in a controlled environment with a limited amount of women and with a heightened desperation for female contact, they tend to become well-versed and skilled at taking women who are having some self-esteem issues and elevating them and presenting to them as if they are the queen of the world. This is how they get money on their books. This is how they get assistance in escaping. And so when Coleman says prison dick hits differently, it's not only about prison dick hitting differently physically, psychologically. An incarcerated man tapping on the brain of a woman with self-esteem issues, what she's going to get from him is going to be a lot more intense than what she's going to get from somebody out on the street who's like, Vicky, so you really ain't all that.
Yeah,
Because the man on the
brain,
street don't need the broad to help get the hell out of prison, does not need money on their books. And so when you think about all these shows that are coming out now, the reality shows about people on the outside falling in love with people on the inside. And if y'all have ever seen letters from inmates, these are the most eloquent, deeply, intensely romantic letters that you have ever seen. What women don't realize is usually they have one good writer in prison who's writing the letters for everybody else, and they purchase the damn letters. But I remember as a kid reading one of these letters from prison that was sent to someone that I know and thinking, damn, that's a poet. It's a psychological mind game. So it is hitting differently.
Yeah.
I just polished up the rough shit that Coleman said.
Yes, you did. And you did it so well.
I
You
got that
did
shit.
what I usually do for you. Thank you.
Yeah, I got that shit for you.
Hey, well, that's all we have time for tonight, y'all. I hope you all enjoyed what we had to say. We would like to find out what your opinions are. If you agree with us, disagree with us, let us know. Possibly we'll be able to bring it up later on another show. But as always, stay up. Look up to the sky when you go outside. Say, "That's you up! I'm here!" Hey.
Say it, JP.